All right, let's finish this up by going over Chapter 16 today, which is on arrays. You may or may not remember, we looked at arrays in an earlier chapter. This chapter looks at arrays in a lot more depth and breadth of coverage. How to create and use an array, array methods. They redo that task list that we just saw with arrays. A couple other things with arrays, and then they finally another redo of the task list with arrays. Now, I just want to show you something. This won't really mean a lot to you right now, but I want you to understand it. All right? Now, if I come in, let's assume for a second that I want to go and I want to create, let's just pretend to make it easier, there's 25 of you in here. Okay? So I'm going to say var grades equals bracket bracket. Okay? Then I can say grades 0 equals 100. Grades 1 equals 99, etc. I can do that. Why am I even showing you this? This is how you do this kind of stuff in JavaScript. Next semester, you're going to be doing it in C#. So just to show you how it'll look different, you'll say int grades equal new int, like let's just say we had 25 people. So do you see how much these two things look alike? The top one is the way you do it in JavaScript. The bottom one is the way you do it in C#. All right? Now, when you create an array in JavaScript, you can do it like this, or you can do it like this. So looking at these two lines, which one do you think people use and why? Those two lines in gray. Which line would you use and why? Why? Yeah, this is less typing. So even though you can do it this way, most people don't. All right? I think when you do it that way, it's expecting a number in there too. So it probably would be expecting like 25 or whatever. All right. So an array is what's called a data structure. All right. You all know what Legos are, right? Imagine that, let's just say this room was filled with people, and it's the first day of class. And I walk in and I say, hey, I just got here, I'm a little late. And I gave each one of you a Lego. I said, entertain yourselves, and I'll be back in 10 minutes. Would you agree that with one Lego, there's probably not a whole lot you can do? But if you walked, said to the person next to you, hey, can I use your Lego? And if 20 or 30 of you did that, you could probably build something, correct? Each one of those Legos is what we've been working with so far. It's an individual piece of data. When you put those individual pieces of data together, you create what's called a data structure. And an array is an example of a data structure. All right. Now, I want to show you something because, and I'll do it quick, but one of the things that makes JavaScript unique. See this? I could come in here and say grades 2 equal Keegan. Grades 3 equal false. Why am I showing you that? Because you can mix the kind of data you put into a JavaScript array. Did you hear me? Notice in here when we're using C#, we say int. That means we can only put whole numbers into an array. JavaScript and PHP are the only two languages that I know that allow you to mix different data types in an array. All right. Most programming languages do not allow you to do that. Now, when you start to refer to the values that are in here, this is typically, you read this as grades sub 0. Sub is short for subscript, or grades index 0. Grades sub 1 or grades index 1. The first element in an array is always element 0. Always. All right. So here, if it says I have 25 elements, they would be grade 0, grades 1, grades 2, all the way to grades 24. Does that make sense? Pretty easy to add stuff and delete stuff to a JavaScript array. Just add it. Okay. Now I want to show you something. This is weird. Most languages don't let you do this. Okay. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use this one that we had. This says make an array and don't give it a size. What happens if I do this? You have any idea? I just put in this. What happens to grades 4 all the way to grades 9999? Any idea? The system puts the word null in there, which means it doesn't have a value. But you can do this. I mean, normally you do number 4, then number 5, then number 6. But I can go and put something out there into space, so to speak. You can do that. All right, bless you. You cannot do that with C#. 25 is as big as that can be. Really 0 to 24. Can't be any bigger than that. Arrays were made to work with for loops. We've talked about for loops before. There's also something in JavaScript called a for in loop. See this? It's a little bit less typing than a for loop. Anything you do with a for loop, you can do, I should say, anything you do with one of these for in loops, you can do with a for loop. But if you want to be able to go through an array, not change any value, but just go through an array, it's called iterate through an array. A for in can run faster than a regular for loop. All right, and that's pretty much what they say in here. All right, arrays have a lot of different properties and objects. Here's some of the stuff that you can work with an array. You can push to add something to the end of an array. You can pop to remove the thing at the top of the array. You can do what's called push moves it to the end of the array. Pop grabs the last one from the array. Unshift adds something to the beginning of an array. Shift removes something from the beginning of the array. You can do what's called reverse. So if I have an array with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I run reverse, the array now has 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Make sense? All right. You can splice an array, which means you can cut out a piece of it and make a new array if you want. You can not only splice, but you can slice. Sounds weird, but you can do both. And there's other things that you can do. You can pass an entire array into a routine. Why might you want to do that? You can sort arrays. All right. You can filter arrays. You can do all sorts of work with them. We're going to have an entire big chapter on arrays next semester in the C# class. All right, and we'll work with them in much more depth and breadth of coverage at that time. So they show you how some of these array methods can be used. Push, pop, slice, etc. All right. So they go back and they redo the task list. It looks the same, but now it's using arrays. All right. And again, you might say, why would you maybe want to use arrays? One nice thing about arrays is they're very fast. They can hold a lot of information, especially JavaScript arrays, because when you create them, you don't have to give them a size. like you do in most programming languages. So as it says, this application will now use an array to store the tasks added by the user. To display them, it'll use the sort and the join methods. To add something to the end of the array, it'll use the push. If you wanted to add it to the beginning instead of the end, you'd use unshift. All right? All right. Here's using split. Okay? When you use split, let's say that I had an array or a string. So I say var name equals double quote Jeffrey space P space Scott. If I run the split method on it, it will take that string and turn it into an array where name 0 would be Jeffrey, name 1 would be P, and name 2 would be Scott. Does that make sense? All right, so you can, I hit it again. So you can split that. So I have to plug it in again. You can also have an associative array. Okay? Now, imagine this. Look on the screen if you would. Imagine that I was going to do a list and I was going to do an array of states. So I said var states equal this. And I said states 0 equals Alabama. States 1 equal Arizona, etc. Are you with me here? Okay. But are you with me as far as I could create an array, and I could create an array of states and make it look like this and have 50 of these. It would be very hard doing that if I told you that Missouri, for example, was, let's say, state 26. It might be kind of hard for you to remember that. Would you agree? But what you can do instead is you can write this. You can say states AZ equals Arizona. States AL equal Alabama. See the difference? Rather than numerically going through an array, which is typically what you do, but rather than doing that, you go through them and you have a string that you use instead of a number. That's an associative array. Some languages allow you to do that, some don't. In fact, I don't think we do that in C# next semester. You can have an array of arrays, and you go, what the hell is an array of arrays? Here's my question for you. What is that? What is this? What? Yeah, it's a spreadsheet. But it's an array of arrays. What do I mean? It's a bunch of rows. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 18 is what I see on here. And it's a bunch of columns, right? That's what it is. And guess what? When you create a two-dimensional array, that's exactly what it is. It's rows and columns. You can have an array of as many dimensions as you want. So I could make a 5-dimensional array. Most people don't go more than 3D, 3 dimensions, because it's hard to do something you couldn't draw. All right, you couldn't fathom in your mind. So they finally end by redoing the task application again. Now look at how they've changed it. they put a due date on there with a date picker. All right, and that should show when this ends. So now you've got a date when that should be finished. So as you probably guess, the JavaScript for this is now more complex. And that's pretty much it.